Joining us now, Deputy Administrator from NASA, our good friend Jim Morhard. Another success from NASA. They're on fire. They had a successful splashdown the other day, and Jim's very excited about that, and he's joining us now. Mr. Deputy, great to have you with us, sir.
John, great to be with you. It's another success for President Trump. We're really at the dawn of a new space age. You know, this was a end-to-end test flight, and we really did it to try to create competition with our civil space industrial base and trying to lower cost and raise innovation at the same time while keeping them safe. And I think we did that. And it's what we want, what the president wants, is a commercially built and operated space crew transportation system. And with that, you know, NASA really, we used to be in Apollo era. We designed it, built it, launched it, and operated it. Now we want to be a customer, really want to be one of many customers in low Earth orbit. And that, you think about it, with Elon Musk and SpaceX, no private companies ever launched and brought back humans from space. SpaceX and NASA have learned a lot from each other, and I can tell you SpaceX has been a great partner in this.
What's the future of this, Jim?
You know, John, I mean, I look at it as, and again, this is the president's campaign, but it's one campaign in space with three domains. It's basically, we have a $400 billion economy in low Earth orbit. With this crew transportation system, we're going to be able to increase research and development on the International Space Station by 300%. But that's really just the beginning. We believe there is such a demand that you'll start seeing commercial space stations going up, and that crew transportation system will keep expanding. And yes, even Elon Musk has said he wants a competition so that others are trying to do the same thing. Boeing certainly is trying right now. So you've got that. Then the president has said, get to the moon to prepare to go to Mars, and get there by 2024, and bring the first woman and next man when you do it. And we're doing just that. And in the meantime, last Thursday, we launched Perseverance, which was a rover going to Mars. Mm-hmm. We've done, people say we're in a space race with China. Well, we've been to Mars. We've landed successfully 4 rovers on Mars, and it's not easy. I think I told you last time we were together, I think we have 3 very expensive craters up there. Mm-hmm. But, there's no race. We've landed how many folks? I mean, 6 astronauts on the moon. We're sent the Parker Solar Probe to the sun, study it. So you can draw your own conclusions. But the future is low Earth orbit, expanding the economy there, using the moon to prepare to go to Mars, be there sustainably, and then go to Mars, which is really so we can go focus on all our resources on deep space exploration. And this starts with the Artemis program.
When you talk about expanding our economy in space stations in low orbit, like for the average layman out there, it's like, okay, space exploration, good thing, don't know what's out there. Mars, let's find out about it, good thing. But then you think, okay, well, how does a space station and low orbit passengers getting there, how does that expand our economy? Can you explain that?
Yeah, we are doing at the International Space Station right now, we're doing transformational activities in microgravity. And that's developing advanced materials. It's also trying to industrialize medicine. And when I say that, we've found immunizations for salmonella. We're creating mass production of artificial retinas. It's those types of things that we're already accomplishing because of the microgravity. Even creating human tissue. You can't, when you're trying to build a human tissue, it collapses with gravity. In microgravity, it doesn't. So you have this ability to possibly start creating human organs in space. So there's a lot of opportunity. We're working on it, working on a lot of different efforts to try to fight cancer up there, and it just goes on and on.
The space stations allow for a better research and development platform due to the microgravity.
Exactly. And right now we have Chris Cassidy's up there right now. We're going to be once we certify this rocket and this capsule, then we'll be sending up a full complement, which is 4 crew. And it's called Crew 1. I expect it will launch in October, hopefully. And with that, the research and development on the space station will increase by 300%. That's how much demand there is right now to use the space station.
That's pretty incredible. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We are with Jim Morhard, and he is the Deputy Administrator at NASA. Jim, you've had a great 2 weeks launching the expedition to Mars. Also, don't forget to tell people about the helicopter, which I think is called Engine, isn't it, right?
It is. It is.
Go over that again. How will that work? Because I think last time you said that Mars has 1/100th of the atmospheric, 1/100th of the atmosphere that we do. So the challenge is getting that chopper up and sustaining it, right?
It is. It's 4 pounds. It's got 2 rotors. They're 4 feet wide, and it's got retractable struts. And we really couldn't find a place to put it on the rover. So the folks at Jet Propulsion Laboratory looked at it and said, we'll put it on the belly of the rover. And so it's going to deposit it on the Martian soil and back off 50 to 100 meters. And we've got, I want to say, 23 cameras on the rover, and there are 2 on the helicopter. And we're going to see if it can fly. And that's really what that's part of this mission. But if we can get it to fly, it'll be used, we'll use a similar helicopter as a forward scout, possibly as a communications relay if an astronaut gets out of the line of sight of home base or its rover that they're with. So, but there are many other things on there. We're trying to convert CO2, carbon dioxide, to oxygen. Since the atmosphere there is 95% carbon dioxide, we're going to be looking for ancient microbial life. We actually sent our astronauts out to the Pilbara outback in Australia, which are the oldest known fossils on Earth are found there. And we're really looking for signposts or signatures of how to find those fossils. And then we entered that data into our computers on the rover, so it'll know what to look for when it goes to the Jezero crater, which is about the size of Lake Tahoe. So
what is the helicopter? The advantage of the helicopter flying over, as obviously you've had the rovers there in the past on the ground. The real, try to do this, Jim Morhard, in layman's terms. What does the capacity of the helicopter on Mars, what does that do for NASA? What does that do for your researchers that you can't do with the rover?
John, we're a species of explorers, and this is going to open it up as far as our ability to explore Mars faster.
Right.
Just as far as the amount of coverage you can make and where we ought to be going, the helicopter will help us tremendously.
Now, is there still water beneath the ground? I know there's research says that there had been for some time. Is there still a possibility it's still there?
Great question, John. Yes, that we know that we have an orbiter that goes around Mars now, and it's identified water 15 kilometers below the surface. We also have seen methane plumes, which could be geologic, but they also could be biologic. Both those things suggest life. I'm not saying there's life on Mars, but certainly, where there's water, there is usually life. So we get accused of why are we so focused on Mars, and we're really hoping that at some point we'll be able to find life there.
Well, why would there be water without life, right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You look at the moon, it's dry. Any planet, if you have water, what would be the purpose of it? It's got to be something in it. Got to be a reason it's there, right?
We're certainly hoping that's the case. John,
all right.
I I really want to get in here. This President Trump has made all these things happen, and it really started when he started in this administration. NASA was at $18 billion. It's now asking for $25.1 billion with the Congress. And, it would not have happened without President Trump's support. And we've got to get that money enacted this year so we can keep going. But it's just amazing what he's done to make this happen. And NASA is about expanding knowledge to improve the human condition of humanity. And he doesn't get credit for that, but that's what we're doing. There's a lot of folks that are suffering, as you know, around the country and in the world, and we're hoping that all these efforts help bring us together.
Well, Jim, he's been a visionary on this as he's rebuilt the military as well, and I know the president is very committed to space exploration. He believes in this type of forward-thinking investment. And, of course, as you know, NASA has been kind of left lagging behind in a couple of administrations with other priorities. So the president's certainly prioritizing this. I've got a couple more minutes with Jim Morhard, Deputy Administrator at NASA. They've just come off a magnificent 2 weeks back-to-back. First, launching their exploration into Mars. Secondly, a very successful landing with the commercial aircraft. I want to get to the relationship with Elon Musk and SpaceX, which, he's ostensibly a for-profit company. What do they bring to the table for NASA?
Was with Elon when the astronauts came back. And, SpaceX, with Elon heading it, have just been, he's been and they've been tremendous partners. They embedded the two astronauts, Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken, into their manufacturing facility. They called them the dads because everybody's so young at SpaceX, but they were there. They wanted them there so that folks felt personally responsible for them as they built the capsule and the rocket. And, so it's Elon all the way down the line of how great these folks are. And it's, but it also, with NASA, when I first got to NASA, people were saying, it's the bug in the amber. Right now, I'd say we've awoken a sleeping giant, and we're just getting started.
In a second Trump term, in a second in another 4 years, 21 to 25 Trump administration, Jim, assuming you're still there, what would be the vision of NASA? Where do you want to see them 2025, assuming Trump gets reelected and assuming you're able to stay with NASA? What's your vision?
That's up to the president. But
of
with
course.
That, the vision of the president is that we will land with the Artemis program. We'll land on the moon by 2024. Well, how do you do that? You've got to have a rocket that's going to be able to take you to the moon. And we're working on that rocket now. It's called the Space Launch System. It actually is going through what we call the green run test. And it's really making sure that all the systems work. At some point, probably in November, late November, we're going to be lighting up all 4 of its engines, and which will be a spectacle to see. And then we've got the Orion space capsule, which is already at Kennedy, waiting for that rocket. We actually just had the stage adapter, which is between the lower and upper stage of the rocket, was delivered while I was there last week. But with that, we're going to be putting that rocket together and launching it in 2021. What we call Artemis 1. It'll be an unmanned launch to the moon, just as we did with Apollo before we put humans on that rocket. Mm-hmm. With that, we're going to be then sending manned Artemis 2. It'll be manned. It'll go around the moon. And then Artemis 3 will be in 2024, where we'll land on the moon. We're working on a landing system. We've got 3 companies that are putting together their proposals as to what that landing system's going to be. That was the hardest part of Apollo, and all the folks that worked on it aren't alive anymore. So we're really looking back at all the records, trying to put together all the data and everything we need and giving it to these companies so that they can figure out the best way to do it now with the technology we have today. And then there's what we call the gateway, which will really be an outpost that will orbit the moon. And ultimately, I think it'll be a staging point or even possibly the vehicle that takes us to Mars. We're looking at it and saying, we know there's water ice on the moon at the North and South Poles. We're going to go to the South Pole and see if we can harvest that water ice. And if we can, we'll use it for oxygen. We'll use it to drink. And we'll also use the hydrogen possibly as propulsion. The Chinese know this. They certainly are looking at the same thing, trying to do the same thing. But with that, we're certainly working hard to make sure that we're doing it and have the capabilities. And then it's to Mars. And there's a lot of things we haven't figured out, including, the most complicated system of all that we've talked about is the human system. And that includes blood flows. It includes just bone loss, muscle loss, all these things, as well as making sure that we've got a way to keep them fed, which sounds so simple. And you hear about the preppers, John, and I probably am somewhat of one. But when you talk to the NASA experts on food doesn't last that long. And we've got to figure that out, too, if we're going to be pre-positioning food on Mars.
So the moon becomes the staging ground.
Exactly.
That's your goal. What's interesting, as you were talking about this, I just have to bring this up. I remember Newt Gingrich in the 2012 campaign against Mitt Romney. He went to Florida, he went to Cocoa Beach, and he said that his vision was a colony on the moon. And it cost him the Florida primary and probably any chance to beat Romney in the nomination. Everybody made fun of him. That was, I think that was like, I have to think it back, but it was like April, it was like February of 2012. And now, 8 years later, that's now on the agenda of NASA and the Trump administration. So Newt Gingrich maybe a little more forward-thinking back then that people gave him credit for. So I'm going to give him a shout-out here, my friend Newt Gingrich.
John, I talk to the speaker frequently, and he's been extremely helpful and he's just a kind man. But he's got vision, as does Jim Bridenstine, as does the president. And
Newt Gingrich, a long friend of mine. We go back a long time, but I'll never forget that. He went to Cocoa Beach and he got skewered. I mean, Romney just skewered. He got skewered for that. And he said he outlined his vision 8 years ago. Not that far off. Not that far off, Jim.
You're right.
Morhard.
You're right. But John, what we see is, look, it costs a lot for humans, the safety of humans. And what I see, at least, is that there will be a lot of robotics on the moon. If it's what we call in situ resource utilization, which is really trying to harvest that water ice. It also could be harvesting semi-precious metals from craters there, from asteroids that hit. We don't know that yet. But there will be a lot of robotics, but you will have sustainable presence of humans that will come and go to check and work on those robotics. And I think it's that type of colonization. And the hope is that we can use the moon as a stepping stone. And we get to Mars, hopefully it'll be another stepping stone. And, it sounds so simplistic, but it's hopscotching from one planet to the other next after we get there.
We're out of time. I want to thank Jim Morhard for being with us. Had a great week at NASA, Deputy Administrator, forward-thinking, the Trump administration, their vision in space exploration probably rivals John F. Kennedy in the 60s. Jim, thanks for being with us, sir. Thank you for all you do.
I think we've gone past that. Thank you, John.
John Fredericks Radio Network.